There has been a lot of contention about how Sam Darnold, the Vikings, they let him go. It was what it was. Like everybody and their mama was upset, or at least they were like, "Oh man, they might get to, it's either Sam Darnold or we should have got Aaron Rodgers." Those are two things I've been hearing this entire offseason. It's driving me insane because let's do some simple remembering. Devin, can we remember? Can we at least agree on that? The pinnacle of where we were at was right after that Packers game, and I mean, like at that moment in time, I would have paid Sam Darnold $50 million, maybe 60. I think that there's an argument to be made there. But then you talk about the Lions game where he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn door. You talk about the Rams game where I don't put all on him. Like he had no time. Like there was no offensive line help. But at the same time, those 2 weeks alone, he probably lost at least 50 million a year. At least, or sorry, 20 to 30 million a year, $50 million over, however long. So that being said, when we talk about 50 or $60 million quarterbacks or $40 million quarterbacks for that sake of argument, we'll say I think of someone that can take over a game. I think of a Patrick Mahomes. I think of in some cases a Jalen Hurts if things are in kind of, if you will. I think of a Josh Allen. I think of a Lamar
Sure.
Jackson potentially. You know,
Mhm.
but Sam Darnold, in all of his glory, when I say they, the Seahawks knew that he was not a $40 million quarterback. So, and again, if that was the case, if the Vikings really screwed the pooch, why didn't Seattle pay him 45, $50 million? Because they knew that he was a better version of Geno Smith, but it was a 3 year, $100 million deal. 33, I'm not great at math, but around 33, $34 million
Right.
dollars a year. And it was one of those things where he wasn't worth the 40 to $50 million that, and he wasn't the quarterback in my mind that was going to elevate us. Okay.
Mm.
So, and I know we just got done playing the Seahawks. That's the whole reason I'm going on this tangent, but let's be real about this situation. When we think about a franchise quarterback, I think about a guy that will win us a playoff game, that will keep us, even if our team sucks, if we don't have a
Right.
running game, our defense sucks, whatever, they will keep us in the game or at least keep us competitive. Sam Darnold's not that guy. And you saw what he did with the Seahawks. We did not lose to the Seahawks because Sam Darnold, carved us up for 400 yards. We lost to the Seahawks because we didn't get a first down for most of the game. Max Brosmer threw 4 interceptions. Defense played its butt off the entire game, and we couldn't run the football. And we didn't run the football. So, and it wasn't like we said, it wasn't because of Sam Darnold. It was because everything else that could have went wrong for us that day did. And so
Mm.
I will commiserate and I will say that, hey, I understand the Seahawks just beat us. That sucks, and they, good on them. But it wasn't because of Sam Darnold, and I stick with the fact that the Vikings did not screw up in letting Sam Darnold walk. Because at the end of the day, it's the playoff games. It is the most important games of the season that you have to look at yourself and be honest with. And hopefully, we can turn around with J.J. McCarthy. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with some of that. Sam Darnold was kind of a mystery at the time. Like you think JJ goes down last season, and we weren't really sure what we were going to see from Sam Darnold. You know what I mean? Of course, we had the meme going around, the seeing ghost Sam Darnold, right? But then he came out, and gosh darn it, he played so well.
Yeah, I did.
We saw a lot of really good things from Sam Darnold, and he carried us last season when we needed him. Um, there was an instant connection with Justin Jefferson. Um, he was just torching defenses. But all of that being said, he was doing all this stuff when it didn't really matter.
True.
Um, to be honest, like when we get down on the nitty gritty, guys, and if I'm being honest about this, when the pressure, when that pressure mounted up, as you say, he turned into a pumpkin, which I love that phrase, by the way. He was throwing picks, he was holding onto the ball, for 20 minutes and taking sacks for what just seemed like no reason. And I forget what that game was that he threw all those picks. You and I were talking about that earlier,
Yep.
but I mean that's just kind of more of the same. That's what we were expecting from Sam Darnold this season, and that's why we let him walk. Um, so I said I was okay with it at the time. We let him go. At least we made him an offer. You know what I mean? He decided to walk. I was okay with it at the time, but this string of losses that we're going through now, it's kind of hard not to look back and shed a tear every once in a while,
That's true.
especially when you see, Sammy D zipping into the end zone. Because there is a lot of great play coming from Sammy in Seattle, but
That's true.
I do honestly think that we were right to move on for a better and more accurate play at quarterback. But just turned out that's not exactly what we got, at least for this season.
That's true.
So, hindsight's 2020, Colton. I mean,
Yep.
we let him go, and I don't think they're necessarily like a super deep playoff team right now. So
Yeah.
just kind of it is what it is. I mean, we've got our own issues to worry about now. We couldn't afford him anyways.
That's true. That's true. But I will just say this one thing. You know, for those people that still think we should have kept him, do you want to honestly sit here and tell me that let's say he copy and paste what he did last year until the end of the season this year? Do we really want to sit here and say or think that during the playoffs we want to put Sam Darnold in that spot? Look at his career. He's not been a guy that has, that has been a passion. He's not been a guy that's been carried a team. He's been a guy that, if things are right, he can be really good. And in some cases, he can be carry you. But at the same time, it's like you can't rely on it as consistently as you can with a guy like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or that kind of stuff. So no, I get
Yeah,
your point.
absolutely.
Yeah, these strings of
You know, when
losses,
the
dude.
when the pressure comes in, Sammy D, he's just not as good as you think he is. And say we do keep Sammy D, then we can't bring in Ryan Kelly and Will Fries and all these other guys that we thought were going to make our team this season. Um, those guys also turning out not to be as great as we thought they're going to
Yeah,
be, but we still
yeah,
did these things in the mindset of, hey, we've got this rookie quarterback, pretty cheap, right? Relatively cheap. We can put together these pieces to make a team that people were saying, at least before the season started, that we were a Super Bowl win now team, right?
yep,
Which obviously you pull the sheets away on that one, and it's not quite what we are. But yeah, you keep around Sammy D. We can't do all this other dope stuff that we ended up doing, which a lot of them were great moves, in my opinion.